Hey guys, Mr. Allen here with another reading video for you. It's the last one from me for the year. Today is my last reading lesson of the year for you. Wow, the year sure went quick. Today we're reading Too Many Frogs by Karen Alexander, and it's about a story of a child who loves to play practical jokes. If you know Mr. Allen, he loves to play practical jokes as well. And it's also talking about the holiday April Fool's Day. That's the first day of April, and that is typically a day set aside for a bunch of joke making things. Chapter 1, April Fool's Day. Nat wakes up early and hops out of bed. Today is the best day for him. Nat loves to play practical jokes, and today is April Fool's Day. Some of Nat's jokes have been big hits. Last year, he short-sheeted his sister's bed. She couldn't understand what was going on. She started to think that her legs must have grown much longer during the day. When she realized what had happened, she laughed her head off. Some of Nat's jokes haven't been quite so successful, though. Mom didn't think finding a furry toy mouse in the cereal was humorous at all. After she calmed down a bit, she said, "That's it. There's a ban on Nat tricks for 2 weeks." Look at the picture here. We could kind of figure out who everybody is. The woman in the picture that looks like she's screaming, that would be who? Yeah, you guessed it. That would be Nat's mom because it said that she screamed. And then what about Nat himself? If you guessed the boy over here with the yellowish colored hair or orangish colored hair, you would be correct. And then obviously the sister from the other page shows the little girl here with the longer hair because it showed her with the sheets here. Good. Let's move on. Nat is the class clown. He is always making jokes in class. He likes it when he makes the other kids laugh. Since it is April Fool's Day, he feels like he has to come up with something really good to provide his classmates with some really good entertainment. Nat thought long and hard before he came up with this brilliant idea. He has bought 2 toy frogs. They are made out of green plastic and they look very realistic. Nat knows just the trick he will play on his classmates. What do you think he's going to do with those plastic frogs? Well, we'll see. Chapter 2, Setting the Scene. Nat arrives at school early. To succeed in his plan, he needs to get into the classroom before anyone else. Nat's class has a rainforest terrarium. It has plants, insects, and 3 frogs in it. Nat's idea is to pretend that the frogs have escaped. He knows that Miss Lopez, his teacher, isn't afraid of frogs, but several of his classmates are. Nat slinks into the room. Good. There's nobody in here. He puts one of the frogs on the floor near the terrarium. He puts the other on his friend Stacy's desk. Nat knows that Stacy really does not like amphibians. Also, she played a great trick on him last April Fool's Day. She put food coloring in his milk at lunch, turning it green, and he thought it had gone moldy. So he owes her. To make his trick more convincing, Nat pushes the lid partway off the terrarium. Then he rushes off to morning assembly. Why is it that Nat chose Stacy to play the trick on? Yes, it's because she had played a trick on him last year. Chapter 3, Help! Frogs! At the assembly, the principal reminds the students to think carefully about their April Fool's Day pranks. He warns them not to do anything dangerous. When the students get back to class, no one notices the frogs at first. Then, Stacy screams and points at her desk. She has finally noticed the frog. A couple of the other kids shriek too, but most of them are laughing. The teacher, Mrs. Lopez, comes over to see what all the noise is about. She notices at once that the frog isn't real. She tells the children not to be ridiculous. Then she scoops up the frog and puts it in her pocket. Just then, Mikey calls out that the lid is off the terrarium. At exactly the same time, Teresa yells when she steps on the other toy frog on the floor. Mrs. Lopez scoops up the second frog and puts it in her other pocket. Let's go back. What does the principal think about jokes? Yeah, he says that they are dangerous. How do the students react to this joke? Well, it said that some of them were shrieking, which means they were yelling and screaming, while the other classmates laughed. Would you laugh? Or would you be one of the ones yelling and screaming if you saw the frog in your classroom? Nat is feeling very pleased with himself. His prank is a success. He pretends that he is working and reaches out for a piece of paper. Something cold and slimy slithers past his fingers. It's a frog! A real one! Nat realizes he had opened the lid of the terrarium too far. At least one of the frogs has escaped. He starts to think he might have gone a bit far with his prank. The frog hops away from Nat's desk onto the next desk and the next. Nat's classmates are screaming. Miss Lopez starts to look frustrated. She tells the children to sit down quietly in their seats, explaining that all the noise will distress the frog. Then she very gently picks up the frog and puts it back in the terrarium. She begins to check to make sure that other frogs are still there. Chapter 4. No Harm Done. Miss Lopez looks very serious as she inspects the terrarium. This is unusual for her. She's usually smiling and laughing. She's the best teacher Nat has ever had. She's a good teacher, and Nat likes her sense of humor. Nat starts to feel foolish. He looks down at his book and he tries to look as innocent as he can. Miss Lopez, however, has guessed who the culprit is. She doesn't say anything to Nat, but she looks directly at him. Suddenly there is a loud croak from under Nat's chair. He almost jumped out of his skin with fright. The whole class laughs. Mrs. Lopez catches the frog and puts it back in the terrarium, closing the lid carefully and securely. Then she walks towards Nat's desk. Miss Lopez tells Nat that he has now had a taste of his own medicine. She says that she knows that Nat was just trying to be funny. She says no harm has been done, but the ending could have been very different. Lifting the top of the terrarium was not a good idea. Nat apologizes to Miss Lopez. He promises that there will be no more practical jokes in class. Stacy is still chuckling about seeing Nat jump out of his seat, but she stops laughing long enough to send Nat a sympathetic glance. What does it mean when the teacher said that Nat got a taste of his own medicine? Yes, it means he knows what it feels like to get tricked now. So the author here is trying to tell you, if you're going to be able to play jokes, you're going to have to be able to accept some too.
And that does it for today's lesson. As always, remember, you are smart, you are kind, you are important, and you are loved. Have a fabulous day, Falcons.